Hal Jordan, the most famous of all the Green Lanterns, burst onto the scene in the Silver Age of comics back in Showcase number 22 in 1959. Since then, the mythos surrounding him has erupted into a full cosmic force known as the Green Lantern Corps. While the Green Ring Slingers have become one of the biggest DC franchises of all time, with over 50 years of history, there are plenty of misconceptions that surround the character, his villains, and his many, many allies. Namely, that he isn't CAC. Thanks 2011's Green Lantern movie, but it's not all doom and gloom. Green Lantern has a rich and compelling mythos, and once you scratch beneath the surface and look past all those misconceptions, you'll understand why he's lauded as one of DC's greatest heroes. So, I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Comics, and here are 10 things everyone always gets wrong about Green Lantern. Number 10, how many human Green Lanterns there have been. When the Green Lantern brand was recreated in the Silver Age, it opened up a world of possibilities. Hal Jordan may have been the one in this new continuity, but over the years, Hal would not be the only Earthling inducted into the Justice League. In the late 1960s, Guy Gardner would become the backup Green Lantern whenever Hal Jordan was unable to do the cosmic policing. Following a power battery exploding in Guy's face, he was then replaced by John Stewart in the early 70s. Then, after the whole Hal murders everybody storyline, Kyle Rayner became the only Green Lantern to create a new Corps and save the universe in the process. After that, there were no new human lanterns from Earth until the New 52, which would introduce Simon Baz as a new ring bearer. Finally, it wasn't until 2014 that Earth's first female Green Lantern, Jessica Cruz, would join. Number 9, once they're a lantern, they're always a lantern. With so many lanterns running around, it always comes as a shock to people that a few of those main lanterns have taken on different superhero identities over the years without their rings. Hal Jordan, after sacrificing his life, would eventually become the new host for the Spectre. After the destruction of the Green Lantern Corps, John Stewart would become a highly decorated member of an offshoot of the Lanterns known as the Dark Stars. Guy Gardner became Warrior, a morphing supersuit hero after a trip to the Amazon where he drank from the chalice of Warrior water. Kyle Rayner was even gifted the power of Ion, which basically has the entirety of the Green Lantern's abilities without needing to channel it through a ring. While still tied to the rings, he was not bound by the Corps and did in fact call himself something different. Number 8, human lanterns don't have other jobs. While becoming a Green Lantern means that the ring bearer becomes the protector for the space sector they're in, many times the new job has very little to do with their chosen profession in life. Hal Jordan was famously a test pilot before and during his ring-slinging fun. Guy Gardner was a social worker and a teacher for kids with disabilities. The New 52 made him a Baltimore City police officer. He also opened up Warriors, which is a superhero-themed bar that even franchised all the way to Oa. John Stewart was a former Marine who was working as an architect before the ring chose him. Kyle Rayner was an artist. Simon Baz was a career petty criminal, though when the Green Lantern ring chooses him, he's under questioning for possible terrorist acts. Jessica Cruz is the odd one out, since before being chosen, she had locked herself in her house for about 4 years, though we have seen some survivalists shine through in her character since. Number 7, only Earthlings become lanterns for Sector 2814. Since Earth is where all the protagonists of the Green Lantern titles hail from, the fact that there have been several extraterrestrials acting as the guardians for that space sector tends to get lost in conversation. The most prominent would be Hal Jordan's predecessor, Abin Sur. The pink-skinned historian from the planet of Ungara was a decorated member of the Green Lantern Corps before he crashed and died on Earth. Before Abin Sur, there was Starkor, who thwarted Traitor and his invasion of Ungara, where he would die and his ring would go to the aforementioned Sur. Laham was the spindly Cillian Lantern during the 17th century. Yolan Gur was the 10th century protector, and it was his power battery that would collide with a fragment of the Starheart to create Alan Scott's ring. Finally, of note is Gnaut, who not only has the best Green Lantern name, would also become a pretty brilliant comedic foil while trying to pester his way into the ranks of the Justice League. Number 6, only Green Lanterns can wield the Power Ring. Outside of Elseworld tales, there is a natural assumption that once a ring has chosen its wearer, no one else can actually use it. So naturally, here are a couple of examples when the idea was completely shattered. Batman has, on numerous occasions, shown to be able to use his immense willpower to control a power ring. The most notable, or at least the most heartwarming, is after Hal Jordan returned from the dead and he decided to mend the troubled bridges between him and Bruce by letting the Dark Knight use his ring for a short period of time. Green Arrow famously used the Green Ring too during Green Lantern Rebirth to shoot an arrow construct at Sinestro to save Kyle Rayner's life, after Hal Jordan had given in to his fear. Finally, we have Harley Quinn, who took the ring from a knocked-out Hal to save the Earth from an alien invasion in the Harley team-up series Little Black Book. Number 5. Hal Jordan was the first chronological Green Lantern. The DC Universe has a strange timeline, with Hal Jordan being the first published member of the Green Lantern Corps from Earth. But in his long history, there have been stories about previous ring bearers from Earth. The very first Green Lantern from Earth is Zhong Li, a monk from China in 660 AD, who is found worthy and then takes on some Chinese warlords in the 3-issue storyline Green Lantern Dragon Lord. Then there was Waverly Sayer, introduced in Green Lantern Quarterly number 2, who was a pioneer during the westward expansion of the US. A broken man, he would revitalize his own life with adventures as the Green Lantern. Finally, there is Daniel Young, an ancestor to Hal Jordan, who was a sheriff in the Old West during 1873. Abin Sur gave Daniel Young the ring briefly as he healed after a particularly grueling battle. Young then used the lantern power to do some law enforcing before it returned to Abin Sur. Even if the stories are short and sweet, they show that Hal was not the first chronological Earth-based Lantern. Number 4. The powers of the ring. The main power of the Green Lantern ring is to summon constructs that are only limited by the creator's willpower and imagination. Flight is another known power, but there are so many more uses for the rings that most fans won't be familiar with. The everyday uses of the ring include life support and personal shields to travel through space, acting as a universal translator and as a vast encyclopedia of the entire galaxy. The ring has also been able to create hard-light versions of minerals, such as kryptonite, to stop rampaging Kryptonians. Number 3. Alan Scott isn't a member of the Green Lantern Corps. Hal Jordan was a legacy character in name only. Alan Scott was a Golden Age character not linked in any sort to the Space Cop, but then the Grand Multiverse began to take shape. In Green Lantern Volume 2, number 40, Alan Scott travels to Earth 1 to get answers from Hal Jordan when his own ring begins to act in a similar manner to Hal's. This is when the massive exposition about the origins of the Guardians of the Universe comes about, and how one of them, Krona, caused all the evils of the universe by viewing the beginning of creation. By the end of the issue, Alan Scott was given honorary status as a member of the Green Lantern Corps. The link between Scott and the Corps doesn't end there, however. Scott's ring is a special fusion of the mysterious Starheart and the Green Lantern ring of Yelan Gur. This means that while his green flame may be unique in that it can't work on wood, it is still a part of the Lantern mythos. Number 2, Kyle Rayner was the only GL with a traumatic love life. Hal Jordan's primary love interest, Carol Ferris, has been a constant flux of love and hate with her position as a Star Sapphire. Similarly, Gillian Perlman, a fellow pilot, would become a Star Sapphire and battle with Hal on numerous occasions. Then there's Arisia Raab, an alien girl who was a 14-year-old in an 18-year-old's body that Hal dated for a time. Sorry about that, just felt my brain undergo 5 different aneurysms at once because holy crap, that is bad. Anyhow, Guy Gardner's first love, Carrie Limbo, would actually become engaged to Hal Jordan while Guy was presumed dead. That is, until she was killed in the decimation of Coast City. John Stewart would then marry Katmar Tui, a Green Lantern from Karuga, until she was killed by Star Sapphire to prove a point to Hal Jordan. Death everywhere. Why? Number 1, Green Lantern cannot affect the color yellow. This Silver Age tidbit is still passed around as though it is common knowledge, despite it being somewhat outdated. While the Silver Age did create a full can't work on yellow limitation as a means to nerf the uber power that comes with being able to create constructs of very little limits, it changed with the times. The first change was the cause of this limitation being a yellow flaw in the central battery on Oa, meaning every ring that drew from the main power source would have that issue. The gradual shift away from that absolute rule began with Hal Jordan overcoming the yellow barrier by a true show of willpower. It then became an almost rite of graduation that Atlantan couldn't become a fully fledged member until they proved they could overcome it. This rule was outright eliminated when Hal Jordan went insane, killing most of the Green Lanterns and absorbing the central power battery into himself, freeing the fear entity known as Parallax. It was a bit convoluted due to the story at the time, but without the evil entity trapped in the battery, it totally erased the yellow limitation from the Green Lantern core.